All right. And let the record reflect that we are also joined by Councilmember Gruber and Councilmember Lupien. And we're just going to get right into the presentation. We have a presentation on the High Falls Improvement District, the High Falls bid. Commissioner, I turn it over to you and your capable staff, or whoever is doing what.
Thank you, Council Member. We will actually have Allison Bartlett from the Law Department give you the presentation. So, okay, Allison, take it away.
And just for a slight bit of added clarity, Allison, though an esteemed member of the Law Department, is here today and presenting in her capacity as member of the High Falls Bid Board.
Thank you. All right.
So thank you, everybody, for the introduction, and good afternoon. I'm Allison Bartlett, and I currently serve on the High Falls Bid Board as an ex officio director appointed by the city. I've prepared a brief presentation for today to provide additional information regarding the role of the High Falls bid and the services it provides. So the High Falls Business Improvement District was created to provide certain services to improve the district and promote entertainment, restaurant, office, utility, residential, mixed use, and retail uses within the area. The High Falls bid provides a variety of services which are outlined in the bid plan. These services include removing debris and trash from the right-of-way, providing marketing, promotion, and signage, and beautification, which includes installing and maintaining benches, trash receptacles, and planters, along with planting and maintaining flowers and landscaping in public areas. So on this next slide, you can see the outlines of the High Falls bid area, which is the vicinity of the Inner Loop, State Street, Brown Street, and the Genesee River. The High Falls Business Improvement District is governed by the High Falls Business Improvement District Management Association, which is a board consisting of owners and tenants of real property within the district, along with appointed representatives from the city, of which I'm one of them. The bid board meets monthly in the High Falls district at the offices of Stantec on Commercial Street. The bid board meetings are noticed pursuant to open meetings law, which includes giving notice to the news media as well as posting on the virtual bulletin board in City Hall. The bid also maintains a website with additional information relating to the board, services offered by the bid, special events, and meeting information in prior minutes. The website's on the slide here, but it's pretty easy, highfallsbid.com. So I just wanted to highlight some of the services that the bid has provided over the years and continues to provide. So as mentioned in my earlier slide, the High Falls bid provides services which are within the parameters of and consistent with the current bid plan. Some highlights of these services include the creation and maintenance of a historic walking tour describing the history and use of buildings in the district, promoting and facilitating the Hochstein at High Falls free outdoor concert series. This has been ongoing since 2009 and contains between 8 and 10 lunchtime concerts highlighting local musicians. Attendance at these concerts varies from about 75 to over 200 for some of the larger concerts. The High Falls bid also purchases and installs holiday lighting, implements and maintains planting and landscaping within the area, purchases and maintains benches, planters, and trash receptacles, and conducts general upkeep, which includes cleaning and trash pickup 2 to 3 times a week. The High Falls bid is committed to these ongoing efforts and initiatives and to continue its mission of promoting and improving the quality of commercial and residential experiences within the High Falls district. And with that, that concludes my brief presentation that I prepared for today. So thank you all for the time, and I hope this information has been helpful.
Okay, so at this point in time, we'll take questions. We're going to go down the line. We're going to start with Councilmember Gruber. Council members, if we can just ask 2 questions and then let it open up to the next council member. And if we need to go back around, we'll come back around.
Sure, thank you. And thanks for the presentation. It was very helpful and informative. What is the, well, the slide we're looking at here is about what kind of happens with general operations of the High Falls bid. What are some of the big things on the docket, some things that are upcoming that the folks are excited about?
So I know that the bid board's looking forward to continuing the Hochstein music series as well as the services that it's continued to provide, but based on the current changes, the upcoming changes in the area, the bid board is looking forward to opportunities with respect to the Rock the Riverway nearing completion, the Interloop project, and also potentials with the potential for a state park coming in. So those are just some future opportunities, but
some big picture stuff coming up. Appreciate that. And how's at one point when I first was elected, I met with the bid there a couple times, and it seemed like a lot of what they were also working on was making sure that office vacancies were down, and I think pre-COVID they were pretty low, and I'm assuming, as with everywhere, the office vacancies went up after 2020. Do you have a sense of where we are with office vacancies over there? Does it feel like it's a problem the bid's trying to work on right now?
So I don't have information on the office vacancies. I've been on the bid board since earlier this summer, but that's certainly information I can ask about and see if we can.
Those aren't. That's not the crux of the conversations at this point. It's more about the operations, like here, than it is about overall vacancies. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the key here is that, and one of the things we've worked with the bid on since this legislation was last in front of council is making sure that the bid understands its limited role in light of the district plan. And so the things that Allison just talked about are things that are clearly delineated in the district plan as to what they do. Certainly, I think they will be cognizant of commercial space and vacancies because we're talking about a board that's made up of ownership and tenants in the area. But without knowing specifically right now if issues of promoting occupancy of commercial spaces is actually part of the plan, I don't think we can comment on the extent to which they're engaged in that.
Okay. Well, I know one of the reasons why this legislation stalled for a bit was to make sure that we have things like meeting minutes and all that stuff posted online. So hopefully we'll just see the fruits of those conversations in meeting minutes.
And I think that's something that Allison could speak to because she's done a lot of work making sure that folks at High Fall Bids understand their obligations under open meetings law, keeping minutes, having those published. Allison, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so for publishing meeting notices, I've been personally making sure that the meetings get posted on the city's virtual bulletin board downstairs in City Hall. And then as far as giving notice to the news media, one of the board members works with WXXI and has been handling making sure that that the meeting notices go directly to the news media via WXXI. And then as far as meeting minutes, I have worked with the board to ensure that the meeting minutes get posted on the website so that they're publicly available. And so, I've been actively involved in making sure that the board is compliant with open meetings law.
VP?
Just a follow-up regarding the meeting minutes, will you be able to upload the previous or the past meeting minutes as well to the website, including,
I think our work so far has been forward-looking, but we can certainly talk to the bid about what's gone on in the past and how we can get those available to the public.
Okay, thank you.
I believe it's an ABO requirement, so you got to do it anyway. Councilmember Lupien?
Yeah, I'm happy to see some of the changes that were made, and I think maybe the website is new, because I think maybe there wasn't a website or it hadn't been updated, so I appreciate that the work that's been done to kind of get the bid into compliance. I am curious on an update on how the bid plans to spend the excess funds. I know I had talked about maybe security and kind of maybe an update on their plans there. And if there's anything else that has been kind of in the gap from where the bid was to where it is now that's been corrected or enhanced, would love to, and you can give me that in writing.
Well, I would hope that the administration can answer a big part of that question. I believe a big part of that question is answered in the transmittal. The transmittal outlines the proposed expenditures for the bid for this upcoming cycle. I believe it's $46,000 roughly thereof, and roughly $56,000 is what they had in surplus. Is that roughly correct? Or if someone can just read the transmittal and quote those items, I'd appreciate it.
Those numbers are roughly correct, yes.
Okay. So what's reflected is they have roughly 56,000 remaining. They're looking to spend 46,000 with this current budget cycle, leaving a surplus of 10,000. I believe that's the answer to your question, unless there's some other detail that you wanted, council member.
I would just jump in. Councilmember Lupien, in your question, you did ask or suggest security may be something that gets spent on, and I think that was raised last time this legislation was before council. Security for the district is not part of the bid plan, part of the district plan. So if the bid wanted to spend money on that, they would have to amend the plan, which would require council action. So at this point, as far as use of the surplus, security issues would not be a part of that.
Thank you.
Council President?
No questions, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Monroe, any questions on the bid? Okay. Folks, thank you for your presentation. We appreciate your time, and we're going to get to the regular business of the committee at this point in time. All right. Introductory 455, sale of real estate. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion. Oh, here we go.
I just had a question about 54 Maryland. Since it is such a large plot, I'm assuming that'll just be, I mean, I know it's going to be a single-family house, and then it's just they'll have a large yard.
Thank you, council member, for the question. So we're talking 54 Maryland, as you pointed out, is a lot and is going to be joined with 56 and a portion of the lot on Glendale to make one lot that will be a rectangle as opposed to a very small lot at 54.
And so the remainder will simply be a yard?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions, I need a motion. Oh, all right. Councilmember Lupien.
Are any of these properties occupied currently?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Are any of these properties occupied currently?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that.
No, I can answer that.
Mr.
The-
Derry will answer that.
Thank you. Thank you. The properties that the city is selling, if you look on there, 56 Maryland Street is a vacant lot, and then a portion of 104 Glendale is a vacant lot. So there's no occupancy there. The other property is 253 Garfield. That's a vacant house that's going to be, excuse me, that's going to be renovated. It's
Okay.
vacant at this point.
It was confusing because it says the sale of 3 residential structures. So if there, sounds like there's one.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's more of a typo than anything else.
Ah, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
three residential properties is probably how it
Great.
should be framed.
Okay. Need a motion and a second.
Second.
Sorry, I'm not on this committee.
I'll move it.
Okay. Okay, moved and seconded. All right. And now we vote. All in favor of 455, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. 455 passes. Introductory number 456, a mandatory agreement, Labella Associates for the Bull's Head U.S. EPA-funded multipurpose grant project. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of 456, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 457, agreement 55GB LLC, Restore New York Communities Initiative, Round 7, Four Corners, Aqueduct Downtown Initiative. Questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. I think the transmittals do a nice job, but there's a lot of Restore New York stuff happening in the next couple of transmittals, so I would just appreciate an overview of what they all are, how they intersect with each other, what's moving existing money and asking for new money. If you wouldn't mind just one overview, that'd be great.
Deputy Commissioner? I'd be happy to. Thank you, Council Member. So this first item refers to a previously authorized and awarded Restore New York project at at the former Gannett Building, and this item is to actually pass the funds through, so appropriate the state funds and pass them through to the developer now that the project is substantially complete. And the later two Restore New York items are for the current round of Restore New York. So one is a city project. That is our city Restore New York application. And we are seeking authorization for that application to be submitted to the state this month. The second, or the third, I should say, Restore New York item is requesting your endorsement of Monroe County's application to Restore New York, as they once again are eligible to submit for Restore New York and are once again working to support a project in the city of Rochester.
Thanks. So the timing of 457, so 450 and 459 are based on the application cycle. Those have to come now. 457, it just happenstance that this is when we're being asked to move the money.
Well, it's happening because the project is now substantially complete and they are able to then access the funding.
Got it. And in terms of 459, I guess we can get there later. I'll just ask a quick question now. The county the county application, that's being done, I'm assuming, in conjunction with the mayor's office and your office to ensure that there's alignment of projects?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we coordinated from the start, just as we have the last two rounds prior to this with the county.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilmember Lupien?
I have a question about it says the Round 7 Four Corners Aqueduct Downtown Initiative. What, the aqueduct piece here, what does that reference?
Good question. So that is, we have to name our submittal every time. So when we submitted this application during round 7, we had multiple projects as part of that, and so we needed to name it. So we chose to highlight its relationship to Four Corners and the aqueduct in the name. There isn't actually any Restore New York funding going to the aqueduct as part of this.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
Moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of 457, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. All right, introductory number 458. Restore New York Communities Initiative, Round 9, Downtown East Side Initiative 2. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a wait.
Move.
Wait. Councilmember Monroe.
What will the split of the 1.5 million be between the two projects for the gap?
It is $900,000 for the 49 to 61 East Avenue building and $600,000 for the other property.
All right, and so now I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 458, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory 459, Restore New York Communities Initiative, Round 9, endorsing Monroe County's application for the Times Square Building Rehabilitation Project. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 459, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory 460, High Falls Business Improvement District. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory 461, Neighborhood and Business Development Organizational Changes. Councilmember Monroe, I believe you had questions.
Yes, thank you. Quite frankly, I was shocked to get a reorganizational piece for such an important, well, any of the departments, and not have any kind of communication with council beforehand. I think this most definitely should have been a group workshop, work session. I have so many questions, including this is reorganization will streamline NBD's operations to better serve customers. How? You know, there's so much background here that just isn't provided, and I can't help, quite frankly, to think that this never would have happened in the past. This would not have flown and been okay with council in the past. So I do have a number of questions. I would like to see the entire organizational chart as opposed to just the bureau's divisions that are changing. And I would like to see the names there as well. So I want to be able to see the chart with the comparison and have some names. In regards to positions, what ones have been promotions or upgrades, what have been demotions or downgrades? Do we have any vacancies? Have any positions been eliminated? In regards to budget impact, I would like to know how this will impact the budget currently going forward. And then I would like to see, you know, if I could see a comparison, more of an apples to apples of fiscal year to fiscal year. So how much was it? What was it costing us? The original fiscal year with the same setup compared to when we will have the full reorganization for a year for the next fiscal year.
Happy to provide all of that in writing and be subsequently available to provide any explanation needed.
Thank you.
Okay. And based upon that, I am going to hold this item, but Councilmember Lupien? Well, Councilmember Lupien, and then we got you right after that, Councilmember Gruber.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that we're being told that there's a reorganization as opposed to what happened with the Office of Violence Prevention where we weren't advised of that change. I agree that, and I'm glad that Chair Patterson is holding this. My question is, what prevented, or what was the barrier to having more of a discussion with council about this reorg prior to submitting it as legislation?
I certainly appreciate the feedback that we've received and happy to provide all the information that you're requesting so that when this item comes up for a vote, you feel good about what you're voting on and fully informed.
I don't think I can feel good about what I'm voting on without a work session and being able to dig into it.
And I offer that. Yep. And we will
wonderful.
provide it in writing, and we will follow it up with whatever availability is most useful for council to get through the information.
Very much appreciate that.
Yep.
Councilmember Gruber?
I'm happy to have a work session and see all the responses, but I also would just like to ask if it's possible to share, and I don't know, Deputy Mayor, if it's you or if it's Commissioner Miller, but just the quick why. I mean, I see the what. The what is pretty clear, but like, what is why are we doing this and why now?
Yep. Commissioner?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember. As you know, we had a fairly significant retirement when Kurt Martin left. And Kurt Martin had been in charge of a portion of this department for a very long time. In his retirement, we stepped back and took a look at how the organization was structured and determined that it would make it simpler and more effective to put like or connected parts of the department together. For example, we had zoning separated from plan review and permitting, and so although they were located on the same floor, there were constantly places where there weren't communications taking place. So as opposed to having 3 departments that didn't have common management, we changed it so they had common management. Similarly, downstairs in the B building where we had code enforcement, we connected that. It was already connected with the rehab folks, but we thought that it would make sense to make that connection better with their administrative functions. So it was really a way to try and gain efficiencies by eliminating people having to essentially run up and down stairs from department to do functions that were really connected. So that's really the bottom line. Happy to go through as was requested with org charts and names. Keep in mind that the org chart has 168 people on it, so it's a really big chart to put names and positions on, but certainly we can do that. And in terms of upgrades and demotions, we can take a look at that. We did eliminate a position when Kurt left. The position that he was in was eliminated. and actually downgraded, but then there was a deputy position to him that we also eliminated. So there were some eliminations in terms of making efficiencies take place here.
My last question, and I'm fine with it being held, and I'm certainly happy to get more information. I'm actually I'm glad to see there's some urgency around this. I mean, it sounds like a lot of this, based on what you just said, Commissioner, a lot of this does center around code enforcement, which is a place where we need better results quicker, and I have no issue with moving on these things quickly if there's a sense that this is what's going to be the result. I am curious, though, as to not so much as why council wasn't discussed. That's not really my concern. But usually these things would happen in budget time. I mean, there's been in my 7+ years, there's been multiple times where we've reorganized pretty substantially, and it's happened around budget time, in part because of the financial impact. Why did this not come last budget? Why not next budget? Why right now?
I'll answer that. So I think with regard to the timing of the retirement that was referred to, that was not necessarily known with any concrete certainty at the time the budget was put forth. When the retirement occurred, we used that as the opportunity to put these changes into place. I will say as well, as somebody that interacts with zoning and building compliance pretty frequently, I'm really pleased at the efficiency with which day-to-day operations are happening, and most importantly, effective communication between those two bureaus, and I think all of that leads to serving our residents better.
Thanks. No further questions from me.
Okay. Vice President?
No questions.
President?
No questions, thanks.
Councilmember Monroe?
I do look forward to having the work session. And again, this kind of information being in the budget, is our fiscal responsibility. Our oversight is one of the key functions of council. And so, again, I mean, I had no idea this was going on, except for the fact that I really appreciate it being held, so we can do that. But the fact of the matter is that when we vote, it will simply be perfunctory because this change has already happened and people already have new titles. So to be receiving emails and then suddenly getting new titles, like, oh, wait, hey, what's happening? Council isn't here to okay things after they're already been done.
Okay, so this item's held, and we move on. Councilmember Lupien, did you have anything else on this one?
I would agree with that assessment of our role.
Thank you. All right, introductory number 462, New York State Vacant Rental Improvement Program. We just want to commend New York State for making these dollars available, and if someone from the administration could speak briefly on this program and how folks are going to be able to access these dollars to rehab vacant housing, that would be great.
Absolutely. Commissioner Miller?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Patterson. As you know, there have been two opportunities that were provided to the city, the THIP, which was the Targeted Home Improvement Program, and the VRIP, the Vacant Rental Improvement Program. We had to apply for each of those. We were competing with other cities in the state. We were fortunate to be granted $4 million for THIP and $2.5 million for VRIP. So this is all part of our overall strategy to improve the quality of housing in the city of Rochester. We have been asked many times by owners of rental properties, where's the help for us? How can we get some support? We have properties that need to be upgraded and we can't do it. So this is an opportunity to do that. It is very specific that it has to be in a certain targeted area. We have provided, or if you don't have it in front of you already, we'll be providing you with a map that shows the outline of the area that is eligible for this. And the properties have to be units that have 1 to 5 residential units, or up to 5 units. And what we would be looking to do is identify the actual buildings that would be eligible, take those eligible buildings and make sure that they meet all of the criteria that the state has provided. And then once we identify how many of those buildings are eligible and meet the criteria, we would offer a lottery process to select winners who would then be eligible for the grant.
And you will be sharing that information with council, or you already have shared that information with council?
Yes and yes.
Okay, so we've already got the info?
We provided you, I believe, with the outline map. I'm not sure if we have been able to come up with the list of properties yet. We're still going through the process of identifying those, but you will have that.
I'll look forward to getting all of that. I just ran in and didn't get a chance to check the mail today, so I will take a look at that. And we will go down the line. If we can keep it to 2 questions each. We'll start with Vice President, because I saw her hand up, and we'll go to Councilmember Gruber.
Thank you, Chair Patterson. And this is great news. Very happy to see these funds are going to the vacant rental in our community. Just curious, this funding, will it be renewable? Is there an opportunity for us to get it renewed, or is this a one-time funding?
Both of the programs that I mentioned, both VRIP and THIP, were identified by the state as new opportunities. We're certainly hopeful that if we can, along with the other cities, demonstrate good results from this, that they would choose to renew it. But as of right now, it is each program is a one-time program.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gruber.
So typically a project like this, if someone was applying and they were delinquent on taxes or had major code issues, they would automatically be ineligible, right? But in this particular case, I would assume we're actually trying to work with places that have some amount of code issues, right?
Yes, yes for code issues and no for tax delinquency. We don't.
So how are you going to draw the line? Like what is a reasonable amount of code issues and what's an unreasonable amount of code issues?
I don't think there's an unreasonable amount of code issues. What we would do is not be able to make one of the properties that is tax delinquent part of the eligible set, but the code deficiencies or code issues would not be a criteria. We would actually, obviously, as you've stated, be looking to correct those code issues. That's part of the rationale here. You know, cleaning up lead and other kinds of hazardous things that would otherwise be code issues.
I mean, I look forward to I look forward to seeing the documents that you're sending. I don't think I've seen them. If they've been sent, Commissioner and Josanne, please just resend them. My concern about this is the point I'm trying to draw here is there's some properties that have certain small code infractions that we would want to use this money to help. There's other properties that have so many code infractions that we're probably even considering taking them to court, correct, Patrick? I mean, that's something that we're regularly doing in the last couple of years. I would not want a penny of this money to go to supporting a property owner who has been so derelict in their responsibilities that we're taking them to court. So there should be some kind of dividing line of what's a reasonable amount of code issues that we're going to work with and what's an unreasonable amount of code issues. And I think that should be kind of stipulated in advance and not just kind of hope that we figure it out. Does that make sense?
No, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I think, as I said, we are, we've just been awarded the funding. You approved us applying for it. Now we're asking you to approve us being able to accept it, and we still need to then continue fleshing out exactly what you've said. What are the criteria? We do have the area boundary. We do need to make sure that we clearly define the criteria, ensure that they meet all of the requirements that the state has put on this, and then move forward with that subset of all of the vacant rental properties.
Okay, thank you. Well, as you work through that, I will certainly vote yes to move the money forward, move the process along. As you develop the criteria, I would just ask that you consider some way of drawing that what can probably be a very delicate line. I don't have an idea of how to do it at first blush. It's something that I'm sure
right.
your team will
you're
have
right.
some ideas about.
It could be number of violations. It could be what the cost is to correct the violations. It could be how long the violations have been in place. I mean, there as you point out, there are a number of ways that you can slice this, and our goal is to figure out the way to use the money to repair as many properties as possible, which may mean very well that the ones that are the worst off might have a tougher time getting over the hurdle, but we will sort that out.
Yeah, and I hope that when you have the criteria developed, that's something that we get to see as well, so we can share it with our constituents as well. Thank you.
Council Vice President. Councilmember Lupien. Council President.
All set, sir. Thank you.
Councilmember Monroe. So just kind of grabbing Councilmember Gruber's point and pushing for a little clarification there. The key point is that this program is for vacant units. So let's say there's an owner occupant and they have a vacant unit, and they're like, hey, I'm in the service area for this, but I actually live downstairs or I live upstairs. Is that someone we would consider funding, or would it be like, nah, you can't play? Have we thought about that at all, or is that something that we're taking into consideration?
I'm not sure exactly what
Somebody's
the rule
glucose
is
meter's
on
going
a
off.
property that has an owner occupant in it. I don't know if you have an answer for that, Johanna?
So the grant is only for landlords,
Okay.
not even though they're owner, because the THIP is the program that covers that type of property.
Mm-hmm.
The owner occupant wouldn't qualify for the VREP.
Okay, very good.
Then, as going back for the code violation situation, the property owner, obviously the vacant property cannot have any code violations. I mean, will have more likely code violations, but they can't be delinquent on other properties that they own within the city of
Okay,
Rochester,
thank you.
or tax delinquent on any of those other properties.
So I guess part of that, teasing that out, is are we also going to be looking at the quality of the landlord in whether or not they'll be able to participate in this program? Because you may well be a landlord, you got you've got a vacant property, you're rehabbing it, you bought it had a bunch of issues and you're working on it. That's one person versus someone who's got a bunch of property and it's a mess and they're doing the bare minimum and nothing more. Are we taking those kind of things in consideration? Is that going to be some criteria we're going to be looking at?
Correct. They have to be in good standing in every which way with the city.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. On that note then, need a motion and a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 462, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 463, Good Cause Eviction Implementation Task Force. Questions, comments, or concerns? Council President.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Patterson. I just want to note that this is one of 3 legislative items and an amendment that I am putting forward this month. The implementation task force, the comment really here is that it is my intention to have a short-lived implementation task force, which will be comprised of members of the administration, council members, community experts, and potentially those who are in the legal field, to make sure and be sure that as we implement good cause if passed, that it is implemented in a way that the city is able to identify the areas in which we have some contributions to make, and we are able to monitor and implement those items. So that is the purpose of the implementation task force.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I have a general question for Corporation Counsel. So we have, if we choose to opt into Good Cause, Good Cause has a 10-year sunset. Is that correct?
That's correct. Under the state legislation, yes.
Okay, so if we decide later on that we don't like what we opted into, is there any mechanism whereby we can opt out?
There's nothing in the state law that says once opted in, you can't opt out. So city council, as I see it, could legislate to opt out of Good Cause. I think we would need to think practically about what that looks like. But as a purely legal matter, there's nothing that would stop us from opting out.
Okay, but there is no specific mechanism. As a general rule, and if you opt in, you're pretty much in. Most of the time in state law, there isn't any real mechanism for opting out, though, is there? That's why you have to opt in.
Yeah, most of the time in state law, we don't have the option to opt in, right? The state just
Right,
tells us this is
right,
the law
right,
now, and
right.
you shall follow it. So it's a general rule that a legislative body, unless there's some legal doctrine preventing it, can undo the legislative things that they've done. An example of that is, and maybe this gets a little touchy, but in the context of the PAB and the litigation that happened there, one of the arguments that the city council made was when it changed the charter in 1985, it should be able to change it back and take discipline out of bargaining. And the courts that heard that argument basically said, well, yeah, as a general matter, that's true. But in this case, in 1985, when you changed your local law, you opted into a statewide law. You adopted the Taylor Law that is a strong statewide general policy, so you can't now do something different. Here, I think it's here it's not the case, right? Some municipalities can opt in, and some municipalities will not opt in. And so I don't think if we opt out, we're inconsistent with state law, right? Because we have the option to opt in or never to have opted in.
Okay.
So in my opinion, I don't think there's a legal prohibition to opting out down the road if we feel that's the right thing to do for some reason.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, no other questions, comments, or concerns? Well, in that case, we're going to take a vote, and it's going to be a roll call vote.
Just committee. Yeah.
Councilmember Patterson,
No.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Vice President Harris,
No.
President Melendez.
Yes. So the item remains held in committee.
Remains held in committee.
Thank you.
Introductory number 464, evidence-based evaluation of good cause eviction. Questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Gruber.
Yeah, I guess this is a question for President Melendez. So this introductory asks to create an RFP for qualified consultants and organizations. What is your proposed timeline for this work to happen?
Obviously, this requires some cooperation from multiple parties involved, but it is my intention that should this all move this month, that we would begin diligently to start the process, and with the intention of getting this in motion as quickly as feasible at this point.
Can you give me a sense of what you think? I understand you don't
Sure.
know what you think is feasible.
Well, I think that in terms of RFPs and RFQs, those processes have some internal metrics and timelines. So certainly for other RFPs that we have implemented in the past, it might take a couple weeks to pull the RFP process together, and then another couple weeks to get it out into the universe to get responses. And then at that point, that's when I think we would be. So we're talking maybe 2 to 3 months.
One thing I would just ask the administration, and I guess it's a question mostly for Patrick and for, well, you tell me who else it's for. But I know that we have we currently have CZB on some type of an existing contract. They've done 2 housing market studies in Rochester that have both, I think, been very, very good, very well done. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to be able to, I mean, if council wanted, I have no idea if anyone besides me thinks this is useful, but if it would be possible to bypass some of the standard procurement methodology in order to use a company that we already have on a contract with.
Yeah, as a general matter for this sort of professional service, we don't have to go through technical bidding, and RFP is generally the best approach, or RFQ, but if we have a sense of the market and we know that we have a reliable partner who can do this, you see no RFP justifications all the time with a variety of reasons why we don't RFP. We could do the same thing here.
Okay. President Melendez, I would just say that if this does, and I'm certainly going to vote in favor of a evaluation if it does move forward, I would recommend you have a conversation with council and the administration about using CZB, because again, I don't think anyone's looked at their studies and thought they were anything other than well done.
Noted. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
No.
Vice President Harris,
No.
President Melendez.
Yes.
Okay. Items held in committee. Introductory number 465, Good Cause Eviction Citywide Education Campaign. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Comment?
Please.
So, once again, should good cause pass, I think it's important that there's thorough community education on what good cause eviction law is and what it is not, both from the perspective of tenants and landlords. So, the proposal before you is for consideration of identifying qualified consultants that could provide that education.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
No.
Vice President Harris,
No.
President Melendez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, items held in committee.
Chair Patterson,
Yes.
if I may.
Yes, sir.
So I do have an additional item that I'd like to share with the council. I have an amendment to introductory number 251, which we will not vote on today. It is for council's review, and the chief of staff is passing that around, but I do want to just highlight what the amendments are, and then we can continue to have discussion in the next couple of weeks before it is considered as an amendment on the floor in the December 17th council meeting. So with that, the amendment is to, in section B2, to change the unit count from 10 to 1. And then from, in terms of defining certain aspects of the law, so one of the things that I've engaged the Corporation Council and others on is local definitions. There were two local definitions that I thought were important based on the report to have some clear definitions in the city charter on. And those are adding C and D. So the term nuisance as used in the good cause eviction law for the city of Rochester shall mean either a public nuisance or a private nuisance. And D, the terms withdrawal from the housing rental market or removal from the housing rental market shall include a temporary removal or withdrawal from the housing market of a housing accommodation for the purpose of making significant repairs or improvements to a housing accommodation where such removal or withdrawal is evidenced by 1, documentation demonstrating the specific work to be accomplished and the timeline therefore, and 2, an attestation that no rent or an analogous revenue, will be collected during the period of such work. There's also a piece that is struck, which is the deleted text, and that is at the bottom of the amendment. So those are the amendments that I'm proposing, and certainly happy to discuss them and consider them in the December 17th council meeting.
Well, wait a minute. So some questions in. Kind of wish
Certainly.
I handed this one out a little earlier, but all right. So I imagine Corporation Council has had a chance to review these amendments.
Yes.
Okay. So Corporation Council, these terms, especially in the items that were handed out in the new section C and D, these terms were not defined in the state law. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How is it, if they are not defined in the state law, that we as a city have the purview to define them?
So we're opting in to the state law through local legislation. The concept of preemption provides that we can't do something at local law that conflicts with something at state law. Because state law is silent as to definitions of these terms, the position would be that there's no conflict here, that the city is merely providing a definition to guide the courts as it's trying to understand the local opt-in to the state law. We have had the opportunity to have conversations with folks in the state legislature who were of the belief that this is something within the city's authority to do.
All right. And so when we refer to term C, nuisance, it says either a public nuisance or a private nuisance. Can you clarify what you mean by those? So by those terms, what exactly does that mean? How is something a public nuisance? How is something a private nuisance?
Sure. So an example of a public nuisance may be I have a tree growing on the front of my yard, and there's a storm, and the tree falls down and blocks the sidewalk and the roadway, and that's now a public nuisance, right? All of the public is inconvenienced and placed at danger because of the fallen tree in the right-of-way. A private nuisance might be I have a garage in the back of my house, and I play music loudly at night, and it bothers one neighbor, but it doesn't bother the public at large. It's a private nuisance between two property owners. There were concerns that in a holdover, or what's traditionally been called a holdover context, that there may be actions by certain tenants within a building, for instance, that inconvenience other tenants. That may be classically a private nuisance, not a public nuisance. So we wanted to make sure that in understanding the word nuisance as used in the law, the court would see that they should be considering both the doctrines of public nuisance and private nuisance.
And how would a person go about proving a private nuisance? I mean, a public, I mean, and I guess I'd be looking for something a little bit more focused on housing law with your public nuisance example, because a falling tree is a fallen tree, but you know, we have a nuisance advisory board that deals with things like that. So is bringing a case before a nuisance points being issued, would that be an example of a public nuisance?
I think we're going to have, well, yes, that's potentially an example of a public nuisance. And I think we're going to have to see how the jurisprudence develops in the courts, because the court ultimately is going to decide what evidence is satisfactory to establish a public nuisance or a private nuisance.
Okay, so again, all right. Okay, and so withdrawal from the rental housing market. Well, again, this isn't defined in the state law. And so I'm having a hard time understanding how we get to define it if it clearly isn't defined in the law. Because when I read it and it said removal from the housing market, I'm thinking, oh, what are you, demoing the house? So how did you get to a substantial repair qualifies as a removal from the housing market? Because if you're making a substantial repair, you are not in fact removing it from the housing market. You're fixing it to put it back on the housing market, which means that you would still be evicting. You know, the action would still be, all right, all of y'all got to go because I'm rehabbing the house.
Yeah, I'll defer in part to the president on this one, but I would say what we've done here in the definition is basically say that those terms shall include, it's not limited to, but it includes a temporary removal. There's nothing about permanency in the language of the law.
Okay.
So this clarifies that, yes, obviously if I want to remove my rental unit from the housing market for all time, that's going to qualify. I think that's a pretty easy call. This clarifies that the court should also consider temporary removals, but only where it's a true removal, meaning you're engaging in some legitimate purpose like significant repairs, and you're not collecting any compensation during that period. So a true removal from the rental market. That was, I believe, the rationale behind the definition.
Chairman, can I make one point too?
Sure, please.
To the point that you made, demolition is one of the explicit exemptions. So with demolition being an explicitly stated exemption, it led to a fairly obvious question, which is, what does withdrawal from the housing rental market mean? And that is where the definition came from, because it doesn't, it clearly is not demolition, because demolition is its own category. So this definition seems to fill the potential gap there.
So in this definition as provided, all a landlord would have to do is assert that I am going to make some repairs in this property. That gives them the authorization to clear the property, and for that period of time, I won't be collecting rent. So however long it's empty, and then I can re-rent it.
So this defines withdrawal to be to include a temporary withdrawal of the sort you've said, and has said that that withdrawal may be evidenced by a showing of the work being done and a lack of collection of rent. I will further note that the state law itself, for this ground, withdrawal from the housing market, also for the demolition ground, requires a higher standard of evidence of the landlord in court. So it's not a preponderance of evidence to make that showing, which is the kind of standard civil law standard of proof. They have to show by clear and convincing evidence that there was a good faith withdrawal from the rental market. So the court may well say, yeah, we see the definition, we agree a temporary withdrawal is fine, and we see that it requires a showing of evidence of the repairs you've done and a showing of evidence that you didn't collect rent, but we need to see more than that. So the court could seek more information to reach that clear and convincing standard. What this definition attempts to do is to make clear that a temporary withdrawal, if it's a true withdrawal, would qualify under this language.
But again, this leaves the court to decide what is the standard for the withdrawal, and it's not showing. This would be a this would require a work plan. So my plan is, I want to fix X, Y, and Z. I want to make all these changes. I want to do this. I want to do all of that. And in order to do all of that, I got to empty the space.
And the court may say, your work plan is very nice, but we'd like to see your signed contract documents. We want the name of your contractor. We want, right? The court is going to decide what clear and convincing evidence means in this context. This is a new standard of proof. The court is going to be figuring this out for the first time too. What this definition does is just give the court some guidance in recognizing that a temporary withdrawal qualifies as a withdrawal from the housing market.
Okay. And the other item we have in section 2, we have a lot of things that are stricken out here. It is too much to try to figure out what is all going on here in the struck out portions. So if you could provide that in writing, what all that struck out stuff is, that would be really nice.
I can give you the specifics in writing. I'll give you the general gist now, though. The general gist is that when this opt-in legislation was first referred to committee, the state law itself had just recently been passed, and the state law, different elements of the state law became effective at different times.
Okay.
And so this was to anticipate those effective dates. Given where we are now with the passage of time, those state law effective dates have passed.
Okay.
So we don't have to wait that out anymore. But we
Okay.
can spell out what all those subsections were.
Okay. Well, thank you. This was very informative, and thank you for sharing this with us, President Melendez, so that we could ask. Yes, Council.
Thanks.
Councilmember.
So Patrick, at the last council meeting when you were providing some education about how a bill becomes a law and when things get signed by New York State, I just want to ask a question about these definitions. If this passes and the state signs off on it, is their signature evidence that they accept these definitions? I understand the courts will act differently, but if the state, who is it? What position? Secretary of
State.
If the Secretary of State signs off on it, is that an indication that the executive office respects these definitions?
No. Of
course not. It couldn't be that simple.
Right. It's not that simple. So the procedure for a local law to become effective is for the locality to file the certified local law with the Secretary of State. That's a purely ministerial process. The Secretary of State is not reviewing a local law for validity, constitutionality, harmony with state law. It's merely saying, got it, received, thank you, filed. I think part of the reason for that is under the municipal home rule law, localities have the authority to pass local laws because the state has said, hey, localities, you can enjoy some of our authority. This is state authority. We're giving it to you to exercise to pass local laws. And so part of that is then filing the local law with the state so that it's on file, and that's when it becomes effective. But there's no kind of substantive merits review, and it's not like they're endorsing the legitimacy of the law. They're just following a filing process, essentially.
And so I mean, to Councilmember Patterson's point, the fact that we're doing any definitions at all, and I'm going to say more of this when we meet for a full council meeting later this month, is an indication that this law is, this law was, maybe the nicest word is sloppily written in certain places. And it's a little bit goofy for us to be providing definitions, but and the guidance that we've received from local state legislators is that that's a thing that we ought to try to do. But there's no indication if these definitions will stick until they are challenged in court, or if they are challenged in court.
That's right. We're not going to know practically the effect of these definitions until we start getting some court decisions.
Thank you.
Council President.
Yes, one final question, or comment, I should say. The other intention, I think, with defining this is we know that we have particular properties in the city of Rochester with deplorable conditions that if a property owner decided they wanted to buy a particular building, whether it's a multi-unit building or a smaller scale housing accommodation, and it required significant investment and the person who's living in it shouldn't be living in it, this is an opportunity that would allow us to acquire that, allow the property owner to remedy the situation. Some properties might need a full gut rehab. Others may need just a couple things like windows dressing. So in that justification, it is our hope that by having a definition for the worst of the worst properties, if a new property owner acquires it, it is able to be addressed through this process.
Well, my response to that would be, Council President, it leaves that person no less evicted. And in many instances, I keep talking about vacate orders because I run into vacate orders. And that's when the situation is so bad that NBD goes in and says, no, nobody can stay here. Y'all got to go, and you got to go now. And, there are very challenging, there's a great deal of housing out there that is challenging. Not anywhere that I would want anyone to stay, but it hasn't met the standard of health and safety that requires a vacate order. And I certainly would want those places rehabbed, but the challenge is, and one of my concerns is, and this legislation in general doesn't address this, but one of the things that I like about this body is that we have addressed, is that we've made dollars available to get places rehabbed that needed significant rehab. And in the course of doing that, we have created situations, multiple instances, where we have given folks the right of return. And this ain't that. So I hear what you're saying and I understand it, but even in your example, it leaves that person no less evicted than they were before. But that's for a whole lot of conversation we'll be having as we move down the road on this over the next couple of days. Okay, so on that, this committee stands adjourned.
Give it a couple of minutes to about a minute or so to switch over.
Madam Vice President, I do have to leave probably around 5:30. I just want to make that note.
Thankfully, we have a short list.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Miguel, you ready? You ready? Okay. I'm about to start. Yeah, we got a tight time. So I'll connect with you afterwards. Absolutely. For the youth, do me a favor. Can you go and get from James right there? Right here in the front. He'll get you a card. Okay. How you doing? Good. At this time, I will call the People, Parks, and Public Works Committee to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice President Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Lightfoot, Councilmember Lupian,
Here.
Councilmember Patterson, President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to host organizations and local experts as part of an ongoing effort to assess and combat childhood poverty in Rochester. I would like to thank my colleagues for joining me along with council staff for their support. For anyone who may have missed yesterday's session, you can watch it online on the City Council's YouTube page. Our next Childhood Poverty Forum will be held on December 10th from 4 to 6 p.m. in the council chambers. All are welcome to attend as we work collectively to address child poverty in our city. Now we'll get to the order of...
Madam Vice President, I just want to compliment and give kudos to the first forum that you had yesterday. The testimony was great. I thought it was going to provide a lot of context as we move forward as to what more the City of Rochester and the Rochester City Council can accomplish. And I appreciate your leadership and your effort in that arena. So thank you.
Thank you for your support, and look forward to your ongoing support, and look forward to us continuing the work. Thank you. We'll start off with introductory number 466, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $1,035,000 bonds of said city to finance the cost of the Honorable Loretta C. Scott Center for Human Services Building Management System Project. Any questions, comments, or concern?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Introductory number 467, authorizing professional service agreement related to the Safe Streets and Roads for All Planning and Demonstration Project. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Gruber.
Sorry. Thanks. Very excited about all of this work. Just a kind of overarching question in terms of the change in administration at the federal level. Is there a concern about some of the outstanding grant awards that we have that don't have contracts? Do we feel good about all those things getting signed in the next month? Does it matter?
I would say in general, we certainly try to move those things through as quickly as we can. We don't have any known reasons for concern at this time, but
Okay.
understand your question.
And I'm assuming that there's good communication with Congressman Morelli and Senator Schumer about, because who have both been advocates of all the work around safe streets. But I personally would not be surprised if money gets used as a political football, and I just want to make sure that we're getting all the money that we've been promised at this point.
Yep. Our communication with our local federal delegation remains strong.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Councilmember Lupian?
I see the list of items that we're planning on spending the money. Are we including built environment changes to either, I can't think of the word right now, like road diets and other to control traffic flow, to reduce speed and safety, roundabouts, that kind of thing?
I'd ask the acting commissioner or city engineer to respond.
Thank you. That all of those different traffic calming and speed calming elements are being
calming,
looked
that's what I was
at
looking for.
through every single one of our street projects right now.
Wonderful. Great
and-
news. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Any additional questions or comments? Now we vote. Anita, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Introductory number 468, authorizing applications for funding related to the 2026-2030 Transportation Improvement Plan. Any questions, comments, or concern? Councilmember Monroe.
I understand that the 15-minute routes, the rapid transit along Lake Avenue, has that started?
So that we get you the most accurate information, we'll get that to you in writing.
Okay, and then just in the interest of the pedestrian safety piece of this, I'm wondering if the lighting was ever added to the city building that's at Brown Square. I know that had been a concern for people who are walking over there.
We will follow up.
Okay, thank you.
President Melendez.
Yes, thank you, Vice President. In looking at I know there's a lot of unknowns in terms of what might change between administrations at the federal level, but I would assume that milling and resurfacing type projects, generally speaking, infrastructure projects, shouldn't have a tremendous impact. But I wonder, with $50 to $60 million in proposed application, do we feel fairly confident that not a lot of significant changes will be happening in transition around infrastructure, or do we not know what that's looking like moving forward?
Yeah, I would say that we don't quite know yet, but certainly we'll keep this council updated as we learn more. But in the meantime, full speed ahead.
And should our application for these projects not be successful, the work has to continue in some way. So, is the intention for us to? I don't want to speak on things we don't know about, but would the intention be for us to find other ways to fund these types of projects? Because some of them on the list I know have some serious concerns.
Yeah, I think certainly we'd have to look at other available funding sources, be they city funds, be they state funds, or some combination thereof. So,
Great, thank you.
Need a motion and a second?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 469, authorizing the mandatory agreements related to Rochester Environmental Rejob 3.0 training program. I'll leave with questions. We had our agenda review, our review session, and I noticed that my question was not captured about where are the participants employed, where are they located, and I think, yeah, my answer was not captured, or my question, shall I say. So if you can please make sure that gets to me by writing, if you could. I would like to know what is the results of the previous rejob program? Where are they located? Are they employed by the city? Are they employed by another entity? I'd love to have that information.
Yep, we'll get that to you in writing.
Thank you.
Joanne was going to provide you the answer, but we do have that for you.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave it to my colleagues. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 470, authorizing application for and receipt of funds from the Reducing Lead in Drinking Water Grant Program in the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Lupien?
I see on the map that some of these streets, you're doing several blocks, but maybe there's a block in the middle not included. Is there a reason for that?
Acting Commissioner?
I'm sorry, which map are you looking at?
This one here. So Post, for example, we've got several blocks of Post, then a gap, and then another block of Post.
Councilman Lupien, that you may see in the legislative review questions, some of that was answered. Have you looked at that at the bottom?
I have not.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to look at that real quick and see if that answers your question.
I don't have that in front of me. This is awkward.
That's okay.
Maybe would you answer just for the public since I asked
Nick,
the question
you wanna answer
publicly?
that?
Thanks, Council Vice President.
You're welcome.
So I can't speak to any individual streets without doing some research, but we generally try to maximize the amount of services we replace with each funding allotment. That involves looking at the density of lead services on that street. So there's a potential that some of those segments that are not covered either have no lead services remaining on those segments, or very few that would be handled through some other fashion. or on another project.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional questions? Need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Introductory number 471, authorizing agreement related to our tour of historically black colleges and universities. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I would like to lead with a comment real quick, just to say kudos to Dr. Green, Commissioner Green, and her administration for bringing this back. Looking for more dollars is what I would love to see us add more dollars to this so we can expose more youth. I understand there's constraints sometimes, but I'm still happy that you guys brought it back. Any additional comments or questions? Okay, I need
Move
a
it.
motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Introductory number 472, authorizing an agreement with MVP Select Care, Inc. for Health Insurance Administration Services. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
You said
Councilmember
472?
Oh. Yeah,
This-
that's-
So it
This
looks
was
like the
Hochstein.
title is incorrect.
Oh, let me go and look at the other
Here's-
one. It's in my thing. I got it right here.
Let's say right there.
I got it. So I probably should. My apologies. Authorizing agreements related to the rock music program. Yeah, introductory number 472, authorizing agreements related to the rock music program. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Patterson.
Just a quick comment. Great program. Happy to see that we're continuing to fund it, hoping that we can find a way to expand it.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. With no further business, the People, Parks, and Public Works Committee stands adjourned. Thank you.